Right, hello from New York.
Greetings from London.
Excellent. So today we're talking about media auditing. Our hypothesis is media auditing must change, please.
Yes.
If you've watched the last few episodes, you know that in 2019 we're really talking about an agenda for growth, for marketers, and how media plays a role in that. We've spent a lot of time recently talking about pitches and the kind of cost exercises of that. So the cost of media is an important consideration because it's a large sum of money. We think that the media auditing service right now is not fit to help marketers deliver that growth agenda. So mate, what is going on?
So, this is a really, really interesting one, an incredibly important discussion. Media auditing has always been a critical discipline within kind of media management, okay? The provision of an independent third party to help a client validate and assess the money that their agency partners are spending on their behalf has always been a really, really important insurance policy. So many advertisers use auditors. A recent survey that the WFA published took about nearly 90% of their members, albeit that's a very small but very powerful base. 90% of their members use some form of media auditor. Okay, that's absolutely critically important. The problem, the massive, massive problem, is that the methodology and the processes that most traditional auditors use are no longer fit for purpose. The processes that often and the methodologies that they are still using were invented by the venerable John Billett in 1993, and they just haven't evolved or developed in line with the dynamic marketplace that we've got at the moment. And so it's just not adding the value that brand leaders and marketeers need now in line with the kind of their media requirements. That's the biggest issue.
Yeah. And this comes back a lot to this whole idea, which, loyal viewers will know that we talk a lot about this idea of media should be an investment in growth, right? And we should obsess about the value of media, not the price of media. We want to stop thinking of media as a commodity, and we want to stop thinking of agencies as suppliers of that commodity. And the prevailing kind of audit service and the narrative that's come from auditing all the way back from the days where it was fit for purpose, when John invented it in the 1990s, is the auditor is a guardian of price and discount.
That's right. And
actually has kind of created this kind of commoditized thinking around media. As we think about media as an investment for growth, and particularly as more media becomes bought in biddable ways, right, in auction-based transactions, this idea of price benchmarking, of discount versus rate card, and that obsession that's the bit that's not fit for purpose, right? It's how do you take the measurement that you've described, which is holding the money to account, and make that fit for purpose in a digital age. And our observation is that most of the legacy audit companies have not evolved those methodologies, have not evolved those practices and principles to be really fit for purpose, particularly for a growth agenda for marketers, for the current era.
So what are the implications?
Well, the implications for a modern industry are quite large, because as I've just mentioned, more and more media is going to be bought through auction-based techniques or auction-based transactions. And if you think about that, that's advertisers bidding, in real time, bidding for impressions or media opportunities. And there's no rate card for that. There's no benchmarkable prices for that, because by definition, it's kind of a fluid pricing system. So the implication is that the existing audit practice is obviously not fit for purpose in that world, and as more and more a greater proportion of spend is going into biddable transactions, then the existing media audit becomes less and less effective, because a smaller proportion each time or each year is auditable. So that's the first thing. The second implication is that the existing audit methodology and the narrative around it, and the fact that it's even called an audit, it has this air of suspicion and investigation around it, which immediately creates the marketer or the advertiser and the agency dynamic. It makes that quite combative, right, and accusatory. I think it just furthers this narrative of, media being a commodity and agencies being suppliers. Because if you had a supplier of a commodity, you'd go in and audit them and just check prices and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think we need to evolve perhaps kind of away from that language. So that's another implication. And then the third thing is, it's incredibly slow. Typically a media audit is done at the close of year and basically says, did you get what you paid for? Did you buy what you intended to buy? Did you get the cost and the qualities that you were anticipating? You can get that like maybe 15 months after some activity, which of course is a real problem. And that's why a lot of auditing is regarded as, very much rear view mirror, kind of a view of your activity, because it just tells you what you did a year ago. That's
exactly what kind of marketers are moaning about. What modern marketeers are looking for from an auditing proposition is the ability to interpret data, their spend data and their performance data, and make kind of relevant, agile, almost predictive media decisions that will improve their ability to go to market. And receiving something 9 months ago, or data that you got from 9 months ago, just isn't going to do that. So that's what marketers want. They want strategic insight from their data that can help inform better media decision going forward.
Yeah. So I completely agree. It has to be a predictive tool. So for marketers then, what should they be thinking about to evolve their audits practice?
I think there's three things. The first is they need to have an understanding and an appreciation as to where their media money is going. Okay, so what proportion of their money is going in traditional offline channels, which is audited by a traditional methodology, and which importantly is going through digital channels where, as we've already discussed, the traditional audit methodology doesn't actually work. So understand where your money is going. Number two, understand which specialist providers can offer a deep understanding of how your digital money is being spent. Okay, so in the same way that some of the traditional auditors are going to offer you assessment of offline channels, understand who can provide you with that specialist support on digital channels. And thirdly, insist that whichever partners you use, they look at that data and they interpret it and provide you with strategic insights to help inform better media decisioning.
Yeah, and that's reducing that lag time, right? So that it turns into, I think, we do need new terminology around this stuff. Calling it an audit does look historic and it looks aggressive. To aspire to a more predictive model, which is possible now. These things, it's going to be self-fulfilling. Like the more investment that goes into these quicker transaction models, these kind of biddable auction-based media buying models, the quicker we get quicker feedback, the easier it is to then optimize all future investments based on those learnings. I just think it's slightly bizarre. We're in 2019, we're 25, 30 years down the road in terms of media auditing, and yet we're still seeing practices which are really out of date. We still see reports from auditors that are based on spreadsheets and PowerPoint, and I just find that just baffling that advertisers continue to pay high fees for a really outdated system. So we really need that auditing community or any audit provision to be far more fit for purpose. So it has to change. We've got to look at a different way of doing this. And if anyone's got any great ideas of what we should call it rather than an audit, that would be most welcome. Right then, the MediaSnack bottom line on auditing is that, one, it's necessary, but it is not the only measure of success for a marketer. Secondly, auditing needs to be more collaborative generally, and it needs to identify value and not just discount on pricing. Auditing needs to be quicker, and it has to enable marketers to make better decisions quicker. And finally, we probably need a different name. Okay, good week 4.
it's been a very, very good week for Group M. So they have secured the services of the legendary Brian Weezer. So Brian, who's a specialist analyst in marketing communications, used to work for Pivotal Research, has now been appointed as Group M's business intelligence director, reporting into Kelly Clark. And we're a big fan of Brian. He's a great friend of ID Comms, and it's a great play for Group M, and we wish them both the best of luck. So good week for Group M. Been a bad week for Tom.
Well, I was going to have exactly the same story, but from the other side, I think it's a terrible week that good for Group M, but Brian is such an interesting and important voice in the industry, and his neutrality and perspective on the industry is really valuable at so many levels. So I think it's a really sad week, but I'm very pleased for Brian. I'm looking forward to celebrating with him on that. So my alternative bad week is some news that you might have seen in the last few weeks, really, which is some massive layoffs that have been happening at kind of content businesses, laying off journalists. Yeah. We've had, BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, Vice just announced layoffs. I think just in January alone this year, there's over 2,000 journalist jobs lost across loads of different things, and some relatively kind of big publishing blogs and platforms like The Pool and others have completely folded. It's indicative of a changing business model. I think these businesses have been being funded on the promise of future ad revenues, which never materialized. And whilst it's obviously sad for the individual journalists who are now having to find new jobs, I think it's somewhat of a correction. I think we had a lot of these content platforms looking to take more than, fighting over a kind of small share, if you like, of ad revenue. So bad week for journalists and kind of a bad week for journalism. Okay, question of the week. Does media auditing need to change?
Yes, yes, or yes.
Excellent. Good. Okay, well, let's see the results of that poll next week. That's your Media Snack for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.
See you next time.